Welcome back to Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm Dear Darling. I shall see what's going on our lovely island of Fawnhollow today in a late night episode. You'll be glad to know that I finished. Actually, I finished it last night, but I only rendered and made the art time lapse video today of there's a message which I'm probably going to ignore and probably respond to afterwards. I forgot what I was saying. I legit just forgot what I was saying. Oh yes, I finished the art time lapse of the series, which is following on from Goodbye Volcano High, which is just in time, so you'll see that on Thursday. But good evening, everyone. Right now in Fawnhallow, it's 11 PM on Tuesday, February 6th, 2024. I actually had a lot of fun drawing this one. The background was not that fun, to be perfectly honest. So when you see it, you might be like, hey, Dylan, you took a lot of shortcuts on the background. Yeah, I did, but it's also because it's a thumbnail. You basically can't tell. It's something I've learned, I suppose, after doing these thumbnail arts for a while now. Is you really can't tell what on earth is going on in the background. Most of the times you see it will be at a resolution of 100 pixels or something. So really, the background's not very important, as long as I get the general sort of vibe of Dee's character art is pretty cool. Yeah, it genuinely was actually quite a fun one to draw, because I think it's a bit different from the much more cutesy style, which I think Dee's been adopting lately. But yeah, I mean, we'll get on to that. I mean, you'll see it yourself, I suppose, on Thursday. We will talk about it then. What I was going to actually do have a conversation I was going to talk about today, because I was on a train today, and you were riding about on a train, got to a station and that sort of thing. And for the first time, I heard during a station, at the station, over the loudspeakers, I heard an announcement from the staff member. I can't remember the exact things they said, but there were two of them. One of them was calling or something. There's a code 4 at the top of escalator, something like that. I didn't quite pay attention to it properly, because I didn't actually realize it was a code XYZ sort of announcement until towards the end. And I was like, that's interesting. This is on London Underground, if you're at all curious, and unsurprisingly. I was I've never actually heard a PA announcement over the loudspeakers while I was in a station. I'm sure it definitely happens. If you had to report an incident and you kind of need to broadcast it to everyone because you I don't know, you need to call people in general, then of course it would happen. But I think this is the first time I've ever been inside a station and have it happen. And I was sitting there being I wonder what code 4 actually meant. My guess is because I know that supermarkets can use code sometimes to be because stuff has happened. It can range from anything from let's say human mishaps to spillages, etc. So I was guessing maybe someone upchucked something at the top of the escalator or something, and they were trying to call a janitor over to basically clean it up. It's interesting actually, now I think about it, that they do it over the intercom system. I would have thought most staff members would have walkie-talkies or something like that in such a large thing, especially when direct communication is. Well, I guess it's not that necessary, isn't it? It's not a janitor 24/7 needs to have a walkie-talkie, because I mean they're just gonna, presumably they're gonna be on a patrol route around the station or around the place in general, and they'll just clean up anything that they spot along the way. It's only extreme situations, I suppose, where they need to be called to one specific area immediately for something. I looked it up later. Apparently code 4 is a spillage. They have codes 1 to 6. I can't remember them off the top of my head, but some was human waste, yes. Some were, one was broken glass, I think. I can't remember the others necessarily off the top of my head. But code 4 seemed like a spillage, which makes sense. If it's a big enough spillage that people could actually slip and injure themselves on it, you probably would want to get it cleaned up reasonably quickly, I would imagine. So yeah, that was interesting. But there was another thing as well, which was not only when this was me entering the station, walking about, I suppose, getting to my platform I wanted to, and then there was another PA code call over the intercom while I was just waiting for my train, and this one was different. They said it was code 8 or something. I wasn't fully paying attention, so I couldn't even make out who they were calling out to, but I was just oh, that's interesting. There's two of them. There's two different codes in one day. I looked this one up as well. Apparently this one is it's not a fire alarm, but it's basically there's been one of the fire sensors has been triggered in one part of the station or something, but it's the only one which has been triggered. Code 8 is basically like, hey, we think this might be a false alarm, can someone go check it out and see if there's like an actual fire like brewing over there or something. And I was like, that's interesting. And of course it makes sense that they don't want to say that like over the intercom. They don't want to be like, hey, can someone check out if there's a possible fire at like the west wing of the station or something, because then people will be like, fire, what? And as well, maybe not as you know, but human beings in a crowd are very panicky creatures. We are very social creatures. Someone starts panicking, and more people. Basically, the odds around you, if the odds are, if people around you are panicking, you will panic too. It's pretty hard to keep a level head in those situations, which is fair. I mean, like, we're sort of like trying to mimic what other people are doing around us, no? So of course it makes sense that we don't want to be like, hey, there's a potential fire, I suppose, like in the station. Everyone panic, because then people would it would be an absolute stampede, almost certainly, which would be an absolute disastrous thing for, well, everyone. So Code 8, there was also like Code 8, and then apparently there's another one which is like Inspector Sans or something. It never really crossed my mind to actually look up these sort of like code things in the first place. I mean, I guess the main reason is because for one, I've never actually heard them in real life. Like, I understand they exist, and I've seen it in shows. There's been like a code something in like supermarkets or something. I don't think I've actually ever heard it before in like an actual public space. I found it quite interesting, if anything. But also, it's kind of like not something I need to know. Like, okay, maybe that's not like the wrong way to phrase it, because there's so many things in life that I don't need to know, but I choose to learn anyway. But it's also sort of thing where there's not really a benefit of me knowing, except for it's sort of like I'm part of now the Cool Kids Club, where I can sort of have a small insight into whatever's going on, the ongoings of the station stuff of that day. But it's not like I'm going to do anything about it. It's like if they call for code 5, I believe it was, like broken glasses like spilled everywhere, like near the escalator. Like, what am I going to do? Like, I guess if I was heading towards that escalator, I knew what escalator like 34 was talking about, then I would not take that escalator. But I don't have like the materials to clean up glass. I'm gonna pick it up with my hands? Absolutely not. That's ridiculous. So it's the sort of thing where it's like it doesn't really heed much benefit to me, right? To be able to go out to a place and be like, oh yeah, I know exactly what they're referring to. I guess it's sort of just like a curiosity thing, if anything. But yeah, I don't know. I just found it fascinating. It was like the first time I've ever heard like a code thing be like called out over station. Like, I know probably it's a thing where it must happen so often. And like, think about all the like stations that exist just in London alone, and think about how many people pass through them every single day. There's got to be so many times where someone, like shatters a piece of glass or causes a spillage or does something worse, I suppose, in a station, and then they'll there's enough large stations with enough like people going through them that they'll have to have like an intercom call out or something, be like, it's code XYZ, please can someone deal with this. Statistically, obviously that must happen. It probably happens multiple times a day. I would not be surprised if it happens over like 20 times a day or something. But it's the first time that it's ever happened to me, I suppose. Well, not happened to me. I've been there in the presence of it happening, which it's a sort of like strange to think about, in the sense that it's a thing which very consciously I can logically reason out, yes, of course it happens all the time, but because it like never happened before, it's not, one, something ever on my mind, and two, I'd be like, oh, it must like never happen then. That's not how it works. That's not how statistics works. It's, the brain's not very good at estimating probabilities or things like that. But isn't it just kind of interesting? I thought it was kind of interesting. Maybe you don't share that same same sort of curiosity that I do. So fair enough. I mean, I'm not really going to fault you for that, but yeah, I'm just like, I don't know. Like, what code system would I come up with? Because the thing about the code system, and I was thinking about this on the train ride afterwards, was like, I feel like you'd want it to be obvious. Like, my initial reaction was, you want it to be obvious, like, what it is. So then even if you're like a rookie, or even if you're like tangentially related to whatever role is required for this task, you can sort of be aware about it, right? You won't have to memorize like a code list of like 600 codes or something. You can memorize like just the general pattern of what's going on. So if it was like a broken glass thing, you'd be like I don't know, there's BG, I suppose, and the escalator or something like that. And then you'd be like, okay, BG, what could it stand for? Broken glass or something like that. But then, now I think about it more, it's actually probably better as a numerical system. One, you can have it very, instead of memorizing or even like memorizing anything, you can just have a reference sheet, to be perfectly honest, which you can just like probably like keep in your pocket and you just like look at it, because it's not very often that these will come into play. I guess it's probably important that you know the like emergency codes. If there's like a code for fire, please evacuate everyone immediately, then you know code 16 you'll have that like ingrained in your brain or something like that. Or maybe all the codes which are like super big emergencies or all in the like 40s or something. I don't know, you can come up with some sort of system, but it's not, I can't imagine these emergency codes come up often enough that it would warrant memorizing an entire list of them. It depends of course how long that list is. I don't necessarily know. I don't also necessarily know how many situations there are in life which would require you to have this sort of code, not code thing, yeah, but this code system going on for them in the first place. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know where I was going with this, to be perfectly honest. just sort of like a, just sort of like a, oh yeah, okay. I don't know what I would like. Okay, let's say theoretical situation. I own some public space. I don't know. It can be anything. Maybe let's say it's like I was gonna say a library, but a library, like, people don't really have very raucous behaviour in there. Like a shopping centre, that's probably like a good one. What sort of code things would you have in there? Like, okay, obviously you want codes for cleaning, you know, or all the ones in the tens can be for the cleaner. So 0 to 9, I'm going to save as the emergency codes. You know, these are really bad things. You know, fire. I don't know, like a dangerous individual. Calamitous weather event. I don't really know. Off the top of my head, it's the sort of thing where like probably you would take someone else's codes and regulations already, so you wouldn't have to think about that situation. Because if emergency comes up and you're like, I don't know what code to say over this, then say over the intercom, that's probably not very good, right? So stuff like that. And then codes 1 onwards, that's what I'm reserving for, like cleaning duties, things happening. You know, someone, you know, made a big spillage or sowed broken glass everywhere, or, you know, spilled a load of rat poison on the ground. That's what those codes are. I don't even know what else you want. Like, I can think, like, in a shopping centre, you probably want, like, a lost child. Or lost person in general, I suppose, sort of call out or report, right? We don't really have enough time, sorry, Wisp, to help you. I mean, we don't need to help you if we don't speak you in the first place, so I guess, if anything, we're doing you a favour in some sort of weird sense. So some sort of, like, lost person, some sort of person-based call out. I don't know what you would have apart from someone being lost, someone being distressed, maybe. I don't really know. I guess you would have medical emergencies. That's also a pretty good one. Maybe that should be. Maybe that should have its own category. So, okay, 0 to 10, straight up emergencies. These are life-threatening. People need to evacuate. Okay, then we'll have 1 to 20. These will be the medical-related things. And 20 to 30 can be danger-related things. And then 30 to 40 can be, like, clean-up-related things. 40 to 50 can be personal-related things. I don't know if we need these many codes. But, I mean, just, like, thinking forward for the future, if you're going to force yourself to have a category which has only got a finite amount of things, you want to give yourself some breathing room, probably. Because, like, what if you like, come up with, like, 10 different emergency scenarios, which uses the numbers 0 to 9, and it's like, oh, wait, hold on, now there's this new temp scenario which we need to consider because it occurred, or, like, it happened to, like, a shopping centre of a town over or something, and we need to make sure that we know what to do in that sort of situation. It's like, what you can do, you can go to -1, I guess. I think it'd be very confusing if I heard over the intercom code -1, but I don't know. I guess you'd probably be like 1A or something. I wonder if that further complicates things. I don't know. Because there's some things which I think you sort of just take as, not granted, but take as a given for being, like, emergency codes, right? You might not necessarily know what code red may mean in a certain establishment, but I think most people would be like, what was that noise? Was that my chair? It might have been my chair. I think most people would probably take code red as, like, yeah, this is an emergency. This is, like, all hands on deck. Something terribly bad is happening. Yeah, I'm just trying to think, to be perfectly honest. um, 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 um. I don't really know what I was going with. It's like, I don't know. I also don't know how to take this conversation any further, if anything. But codes, yes. I don't know. Like, how descriptive should a code be? Actually, how many codes? I'm trying to think about that myself now as like a consumer walking about an environment shopping centre. What codes would actually make me panic, I suppose? Like, obviously, fire or like dangerous individual would definitely, you know, get my adrenaline going, no question about that. But things like spillages, like, why do they necessarily need a code? Now I think about it. Like, if I heard broken glass around, I don't know, like Claire's or something, I'd be like, oh, that's like not great, I guess. I guess I would avoid Claire's. Claire's is a shopping centre. It's like a not shopping centre, sorry, a shop. That's a noun. It's like an accessory shop. It's kind of like aimed toward like young girls and like preteens, teens age sort of thing. I don't know why they came to mind. I don't even know. Maybe they're a global brand. It might even be American brand. I'm actually not sure. I forgot what I was going with. Yeah, like I mean, some things which I would think nothing about. You know, like what about like an electrical issue or something with like equipment? I probably would not think anything about. I guess the thing is, it's not so much about me as an individual, because I'm only one part of the collective as humanity. There's probably people out there who would panic, be like, oh, the electric's all shut down, or maybe would see that to justify some like unruly behaviour, like, oh, the electrics are down, that means I can steal things now because the security cameras aren't working, which I probably don't particularly want to encourage, is my guess. But stuff like that, you know, it's just like I don't know. I guess there's not like a benefit to saying it fully over the intercom. Like, the only benefit is theoretically the staff members will be able to know what you're talking about like immediately. But like now you can just have like a reference chart or something, to be perfectly honest, which you can just keep on you and have a quick glance at, and you know, every single code feels the same, I suppose, to like the casual shop goer or something like that, right? I don't know. What about in private facilities, like things where the expected people walking about are not just like your average everyday consumer or person, like I don't know, like that's a space station or something? Do they have number codes as well, or do they just go code the oxygen filtration system is not functioning or something? I guess you kind of don't really need an intercom system on like the space station, right? I don't think it's like that big. I mean, it's big, but it's not. I mean, it's like big for a thing in space, to be perfectly honest. Well, I guess it actually is minuscule for a thing in space, because you know we've got like planets and stuff. But do they just? I guess they probably just say the issue out loud, like as its name. Yeah, I don't really know. Unsurprisingly, I think these things end up being kind of context dependent. You know, who knows? Well, I guess if you work in these facilities, you probably do. I guess a universal code that everyone knows tends to be one of a fire alarm, of a high shrill noise going. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this episode off here. So if you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Hannah Crossing New Horizons. I've been dear darling. Likes, comments, subscription, shares, greatly appreciated. Socials, Discord down below. Hope you see each other again. But for now, it's our farewell. So until next time. Bye bye for now.